What's the deal, pickles? Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. I'm Kia Sims, and today I'm bringing y'all a how I make my YouTube thumbnails tutorial video, okay? And I know I promised y'all this video like literally months ago. I just forgot to record it until a few days ago when someone reminded me. So yeah, shout out to them because now I'm not a liar. But yes, I'm actually going to be showing you guys two methods on how to take your thumbnail pictures. I'll show you guys a more traditional method which uses the pose player and teleporter mods, and then I will also be showing you guys a method using the Wicked Whims mod. Personally, alright, I favor the Wicked Whims method. I just find it to be a bit more convenient, and I'll show y'all why I say that in this video. But that is an 18+ mod, so if you're not interested in any of its other features, you might just be better off sticking with the traditional method. So in addition to downloading one or both of those mods, you're also going to need to download a pose, of course. There are literally a ton of poses out there, a ton of pose creators. I'll try to remember to leave a couple of my favorites down below, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to be using the creator Cassandra Russell's poses. And yes, the last optional download I would recommend is a green screen, wallpaper, or flooring. I recommend downloading these because if you take pictures against this background, it'll just be that much easier to edit. I think that'll make more sense if you don't know what I'm talking about once we get into the tutorial, but again, that is a completely optional download. You could probably achieve the same outcome with just, you know, a same colored like base game wallpaper and floor, and yeah, I'm sure it would work just the same. And so yes, once you've downloaded everything and put everything into your game, we are all set to go ahead and open up our game. And so now that my game is loaded up, I want to very quickly just show you guys two things, which is my graphics settings and my G-Shade preset. My graphics settings are of course the settings that dictate the quality of my game. As you can see, I have the Sims set to high or very high so that you can see just a lot of detail in their face. I don't use an HQ mod or anything like that just because I don't want to compromise my computer's performance for graphics. And so this is the only settings I really rely on when it comes to taking like close-up pictures of my Sims. As for my G-Shade preset, which yes, I still use G-Shade, I'll make sure I leave the download link and everything in the description for you guys. But if you have no idea what G-Shade is, or what I'm even talking about when I say G-Shade, G-Shade is an external program that you can use to add color filters over your Sims game. Another version of this also exists called Reshade, but again, I use G-Shade. Yeah, I just prefer it. I feel like it helps my computer run a little faster. And so yeah, here I am just showing you guys what my game looks like with and without G-Shade on and off. Of course, this is pretty important to my whole thumbnail process because it literally changes the way the game and scenery looks. So yeah, I'll be sure to also link a video on how to download G-Shade and everything regarding that. If you're interested in that, that will also be in the description. Now that we've gone over both of those, we're going to actually start taking our pictures. And so once I've loaded in, first of all, please excuse the state of this apartment. Okay, it's not fully furnished clearly, but the first thing I do is I go into build mode and make a room to actually take the picture in. I typically would do this on an empty lot in a fresh save, definitely not in an apartment, but you know, we're already here. And so I'm just making the room and adding the green screen, walls, and floors, as well as a good light source until the room is lit up to my liking. And so once the room is ready, if you're using the first traditional method, your next step is to place down a teleporter. The teleporter is one of the mods that we just downloaded, and it basically just lets you automatically teleport your Sims to wherever you place the object. So once you got all that, we can finally get out of build mode, and you're literally just going to click on the object and press teleport a Sim here. It's going to bring up all the Sims in the nearby area, even ones not in your household. The summon Sim option is basically the same. It just gives you the ability to teleport a Sim from anywhere in the world, even if they're not nearby. And so since the sim that I'm posing is right here, I'm just using the teleport option, and as soon as you click it, the sim is standing exactly where you told them to. And I did forget to mention, but I would recommend having your autonomy turned off or pausing your game and like locking the doors, just so that your sim doesn't move during like this awkward in between time when they're not in a pose and after you've just used the teleporter. But yeah, I'm just turning off headline effects here with the cheat so that I don't have the floating plumb bob in any of my screenshots. And now we just go ahead and click on our sim. We're going to look for the pose by pack option, which is going to show you all of the poses you've installed. I have quite a bit, so I'm just going to jump down to the creator I was mentioning at the beginning of this video, which is Cassandra Gressel, sorry. And once we get there, I'm just clicking on one of their pose packs, and as you can see, they have their poses separated plus an all-in-one option, which basically runs through all of the poses without you having to queue them up. I really appreciate when creators do that because I'm really lazy and it's just very helpful. But yeah, it's really just that simple. I'm just going into tab mode now. I'm going to try and get the best possible angle. I'm just moving around with my WASD keys, and to move up and down, I'm just using the Q and E keys on my keyboard. And yeah, I'm just finding the best possible pictures until I'm satisfied. Also, just a reminder, if you did install G-Shade for the first time, you'll have a new screenshot key instead of the regular Sims one that uses the C key on your keyboard. You're gonna have to go into your settings and check what your new screenshot key is, because if you use the C keyboard shortcut, your pictures will not have the G-Shade overlay on top of them. You'll also want to go ahead and check your G-Shade settings to see where you have all your new picture saving, because they will no longer save in your Documents Sims 4 Electronic Arts folder. But yeah, I'm just gonna go through a few more poses and continue to take pictures, and then I will be back with y'all. So now that we've gone over posing with the pose player mod, I'm gonna move on to posing with Wicked Whims, which all you do is you click on your sim, you're gonna go to Wicked and you're gonna go right there to pose. You're gonna get an almost identical pop-up with all of your poses that you currently have installed. If you are missing a few poses, it could just be because Wicked Whims sometimes doesn't always recognize like older poses. But for the most part, all your poses should be there. And so I'm just finding the exact same creator, Cassandra Gressel, and just like that, your sim is posed. But a big difference between these two mods comes when you want to move your pose sims around. So for the next pose, I'm actually going to show y'all with an object. I'm just going to put down a couch into our little picture space and choose a new pose that uses a couch like this one right here. And so as y'all can see, she's literally sat, but she's just very off from the chair. And normally if you were using the pose player and teleporter mod, you'd have to keep going in and getting new teleporters and just adjust the placement and everything. But with Wicked Whims, you can actually position them right then and there with these arrows that are under the actions category. And so this is that convenience that I was talking about that makes me value Wicked Whims over pose player. I know it might not seem like too big of a deal right now, but when you're taking multiple pictures with multiple poses with multiple sims, the last thing you want to do is keep going into build by and adjusting everyone every 2 seconds with a teleporter. But yes, these type of poses do of course still work with the pose player mod. You usually just put the teleporter in the center of the couch and probably just have to adjust them as needed slightly. But again, this is just more convenient to me. But yeah, now that I'm going through a couple of different chair poses, I'm just readjusting her as needed. The next thing I'm going to be showing you guys is how to pose with multiple sims, and I'm going to show you guys how to do this with pose player first. So you're still going to be using the teleporter mod to get all of your sims in one place, especially if they're not already on the lot. And once you get into the pose panel, I'm just looking for a friends type pose with 2 sims and picking whichever one I want. And this specific pose has an all-in-one option for each sim, so I'm just making sure I have each sim do a different version, the A and B version. That way they're not layered on top of each other doing the exact same pose. I also ended up going back in and adding another light in this little room just because I realized it was a little dark. But yeah, and of course this would be the exact same process with Wicked Whims. The only difference is you wouldn't have any problems like this if you decided you wanted to add another sim to the pose or wanted to add a chair or something behind them. And so as you can see, I just adjust with the arrows, and then literally nothing would be able to cancel their animation out. But yeah, now that we're done taking the picture of our Sims, it's time to finally take a background picture to replace this green screen. And this is just a personal preference, but I prefer splitting up my pictures of my Sims versus my pictures of backgrounds because I feel like it makes for higher quality pictures. Nothing says you have to do it exactly like this. You can literally take like pictures of your Sims pose and fully decorated rooms and completely leave the background. I just feel like this is the best way to get the best possible lighting on your Sims and also be able to fully customize their backgrounds to your liking. But yeah, I'm kind of just doing some set dressing in her bedroom here. I'm adjusting the lighting. If I wanted to move any furniture around, this is the time that I would do so. I really like having like rooms or like house backgrounds in my thumbnails, but occasionally I will do like scenery. And so yeah, I'm just going around the room, getting a few options to choose from. And then to show y'all what I mean, I'm going outside the apartment in tab mode and getting some more scenic pictures of San Myshuno. But yes, after all of this, we're finally ready to start making the thumbnail. And so I'm gonna go ahead and email myself all of these pictures because I actually make all of my thumbnails on my phone instead of my computer. But as for editing apps, the few that we're going to be using are Sketchbook, Eraser, Fonto, PixArt, Image Size, and Remini. As for optional downloads, I also use Procreate, which is a paid app on iPads, I believe, but I don't use it to make that big of a difference, which is why it's optional. I don't want y'all to feel like you have to pay for this app in order to make your thumbnails. And I'm also going to include a pack of Sims 4 icons that I've downloaded onto my phone. I don't always end up using them in my thumbnails, but I do use them occasionally, and I did end up using them in this specific thumbnail. And so if that's something that you would be interested in, or something that you just like about my thumbnails sometimes, then yeah, that download will also be available for you guys down below. Alright, and so as y'all can see, we are now on my phone, and I've already sent myself all the pictures we took. And so the first thing we're doing is we're opening up Image Size and we're resizing our background pictures. YouTube thumbnail dimensions are 1280 by 720. I actually didn't realize I had it marked wrong as I was recording this, but it's an easy fix, so no harm done. But as y'all saw, I took a couple of possible background pictures just to give myself options, and so I'm resizing all of them, powering through the ads. And once I've resized all these pictures, I'm going back into my gallery and making my final decision. I did end up on this picture though. I really liked how the lighting looked in it, and so yeah, I'm just clicking the 3 dots in the upper right hand corner to start editing the picture. I'm messing with the exposure to my liking a little bit, making it a tad bit brighter. From there, I'm going into PixArt, and I'm opening up the picture in here, and I'm adding a few effects over it. I like blurring out my backgrounds just so that my Sims can be the focal point in my thumbnails, and so that's what I'm doing now through the effects option. I'm also adding a couple of sticker overlays over the picture. I usually add this purple gradient tint sticker, but it doesn't really stand out a whole lot on this background just because the whole picture is already mostly pinks and purples. I'm also adding this cute little lens flare effect. To find these in the app, you would just search keywords like light or gradient up there by the search. And so once I'm happy with all these PixArt edits, I'm just going back into my gallery and I'm going back to the edit option, and at the top there with the little pen icon, I'm using that to add my border to my thumbnail. It's just a personal preference. I like how borders look in my thumbnails, and so it's already set to a pink color that I like. I'm just clicking the little square to bring it on the picture, and I'm resizing it to fit around the frame. Also, don't mind me rotating my phone like a crazy person. I'm just trying to make sure I cover all the edges. And it was kind of hard to tell because the border blended in with the image, but I did get it eventually. And so once I'm done in there, I'm going into Eraser to finally get the pictures of these Sims. And again, this is all that editing that I was talking about that will be so much easier if you use a green screen background. It doesn't even have to be green, but you will get the best results if you use a color that isn't on your Sims. And so since neither of the Sims have on any green of that exact shade, it's going to pick up really well, but I grabbed a picture of the Sims, I'm tapping erase and going to target color, then I'm just lining up the target with the green background, and it immediately erases a good chunk. I'm just going around getting the edges that it missed, but again, it picked up very well. I'm hardly having to do any erasing on my own, and so once I've gotten to a good place, I'm ignoring the fine details and the green outlining them. I'm just pressing done and saving this picture to my phone. I'm also closing out some tabs before my phone starts acting crazy, so don't mind that. But now we're going into Sketchbook, which is where the bulk of editing will happen. I'm just starting a new project in the app. I'm choosing new from image and importing the background picture as the photo. And then to add the Sims in, I'm pressing the boxes at the top and importing a second image, which is the Sims we just got done with in Eraser. I'm just sizing them up and positioning them just wherever I feel they fit in best. And so to resize after you've placed them, you just go back and use the transform option and start moving them around or using 2 fingers to make them bigger and smaller. But once they're positioned nicely, I'm clicking the button next to the color wheel of the 2 squares, aka the layers button, and I'm using the plus to add another layer, which is going to be my outline layer. So I'm just picking a pencil and changing the color to white because I'm going to outline my Sims in white. I'm also double checking the opacity and the size of the brush, and then just zooming in, I'm using my finger to draw an outline around the Sims. I'm sure there are faster and more efficient apps that can do this, but honestly, I prefer doing it by hand. I just like being able to make sure that I don't miss anything. And so if you notice, sometimes I'm drawing the outline on top of the Sim, especially in the hair region. It's just because sometimes it's more trouble than it's worth to try and perfectly outline like every single strand of hair. And so I'm just drawing on top where I think an outline would go, and then I will delete all the excess at the end. But yeah, I'll probably go ahead and speed this part up, but I'm just gonna go around and outline both of the Sims like I said. So now that I'm done with the outlining, I'm going back into the brushes and switching to an eraser, and I'm just going to manually clean up the image. I'm also switching back to the layer with the Sims so that I can actually erase bits of their picture. I don't want to delete parts of the outline, I want to delete them, so you have to change layers. And I'm getting all that little excess green to the best of my abilities. Okay, this is where I'm deleting the parts of the picture that went outside the outline. Truthfully, this is like the #1 reason why I make my Sims have outlines in my thumbnails, just so that this cleanup is nice and easy. But again, I'll go ahead and speed this part up, and y'all can continue to watch until we're ready to move on. And so now that I've finished up with that, I'm going back on the layers and I'm finding the layer with the outline on it and duplicating it. Then I'm just clicking the newly duplicated layer and going into HSL adjustment to change the color from white to black with the slider. Then, while still on this layer, I'm going into transform and I'm using the nudge tool at the top, and I'm just slightly moving it over some paces to create a shadow effect. Then I'm going into the color wheel again and I'm choosing a black, and I'm going into the fill option and I'm filling this entire duplicated outline in. Then I'm dragging this layer underneath the original picture of the erased Sims so that you can see their faces again. And I'm just clicking on the picture twice, and I'm going to go to the opacity slider and move it down to 50 just so that the shadow is lighter. Next up is an optional step, I guess, but I'm really only doing it because I'm a perfectionist, but it's a layer created for editing. I'm just going in using the color picker tool, and I'm getting rid of Penny's part since it was kind of bothering me since she had bangs. I'm also going in and just fixing up a bit of issues with clipping. Again, do not feel like you have to do all this. If you're familiar with The Sims in any capacity, you know that clipping happens, especially if you use CC. And so, you know, a little nail going through some hair isn't gonna hurt anybody. I'm just fixing it up because I'm nuts. But yeah, if you don't want to, or if it's too much work, then you can totally skip this. I'm also changing the brushes I'm using throughout this process. I'm switching to brushes that have more of a fade instead of them being so hard. And so yes, again, no one is zooming in on your thumbnails to point out these issues, but I'm doing my best to fix some of the big stuff that was kind of bothering me. So once that is all fixed up, I'm going to the far left button at the top and going back to gallery to save it. But now that we have the new saved image, we're ready to go into the Remini app, which is just an image enhancing app. Y'all actually aren't going to be able to see the pictures as I work on them in here, just because the app blacks out screenshots and screen recordings just like Netflix does. And so yeah, I'll leave these clips in anyway just so that y'all can see which buttons I'm clicking. But it's super simple to use. You just gotta ignore all the ads and you're selecting your most recent picture, pressing enhance, and I know y'all can't see it, y'all will see it later, but it just enhances the picture so much, especially the Sims eyes. I'm just going up here at the top and saving the newly edited picture. And so now I'm just going back into Sketchbook to our last project. I'm inserting this new picture as a new layer, making sure it's above everything else in the layers. And I'm zooming in here. I'm really trying to show y'all what the Remini app has added to the picture. There's a pretty huge quality difference to me, so that's why I continue to use it. But from here, I'm ready to go add text on top of the image. So I'm going back into Photo, clicking photo albums to pull up the most recently saved picture, and you just tap anywhere on the screen once the picture is loaded in to start adding text. And it actually took me a while to figure out what I wanted to add as text because I didn't know what I was naming this video. I figured it out eventually, and I do have a bunch of custom fonts I've installed into the app. If you want to know how to do that, the app literally has written instructions, or you could look it up on how to add custom fonts to Fonto on YouTube. I just don't remember how to do it off the top of my head. And so yeah, I'm just resizing and maneuvering where I think the words look best. Truthfully, this was probably the longest I've ever taken to put text on a picture, just because I was so indecisive when it came to what fonts to use. So for everybody's sake, I'm going to cut most of that back and forth out, but you get the gist of what I'm doing. I'm just adding my text. And so once it's positioned how I want it, after several minutes of deliberations, I'm saving the image and going back into Sketchbook to add the finished picture as the top layer. I'm also deleting my past attempts again. I was doing this for a while, so yeah, I needed to delete those. And so at this point in a typical thumbnail, I would be done, but this thumbnail to me felt like it had a lot of extra space, and so that was kind of bothering me. So here is where I go in with the Sims 4 icons I mentioned earlier. And so I'm going back into the insert image, and like I said, I have these icons downloaded on my phone. So to access them, I click on the little folder and go find them in my phone in my actual downloads. But you could just download them regularly as pictures and insert them as regular layers, as we have been doing, which I ended up doing anyway because I couldn't find any icons I wanted, so I had to go back to the website I linked and download more. I'm messing around with the camera and a couple of other icons, but like I said, I wanted some icons from the Get Famous pack, so none of those end up staying. I'm just adding the new ones in from my photo gallery and positioning them, and at this point the pictures are overlapping the text, so I'm going in with an eraser and erasing the parts of the image that overlap the text. I turned the opacity down so I could be a bit more accurate, and just like that, we're all finished. But now we're going to get into the optional step, which is through Procreate. Alright, and so now here we are in Procreate. I've already imported the photo in and everything, and all I'm doing is I'm getting a regular paintbrush. I'm just making the color black, and I'm going in and I'm outlining the Sim's face to places I want to have a deeper shadow, I typically go around their faces, ignore any stray marks that I might make. I'm not too great at using my stylus or my Apple Pencil yet, and so yeah, I'm still going around the face. I'm lining it so that when I'm ready to add the shadow, that is where the shadows will appear. I'm also going in on the cleavage just a little bit, just because I feel like that's a part that makes sense to have a little bit of a deeper shadow. And then once I'm happy with the shadow, I'm just going up here and I'm going to Gaussian blur, and just using my finger to move along the screen, I'm adding the shadow and making it fade out the more that I move it. I'm not sure how noticeable it is for you guys right here, but I'm coming over here to show y'all what it looks like with it on and off. And so like I said, it's just something that adds a little bit more of a shadowy effect on top of the picture, and I really like that. But yeah, that is it for this tutorial. Feel free to leave down any comments, any questions if you feel like I went too fast in this tutorial, or if something just wasn't super clear. I'll do my best to help you guys out. And yeah, I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys.